Welcome to the Blackburn Ed podcast. Here we go again. The home kit has been leaked. We have a new signing. We still don't have contracts signed. It's just another week as a Rovers fan. But let's get into the headlines. So yes, the home kit was leaked and now released early, which is splitting opinions amongst the fans. Denive has signed on with others linked, and so has the rebuild actually started. But there's still no contract news as more teams are being linked to Travis now. But in a positive sense, with the club have re-signed someone as club sponsor. Watson Ramsbottom signs on for another year. So it's not all doom and gloom. And yes, I'm struggling for my words today. I have no idea why. I think it's because I'm looking at Mark's beautiful shirt there. Mark, tell us about that shirt you're wearing for the people listening and not watching.
Yes, it is the 1992-93 Asics McEwens Lager, first ever one in the Premier League. Player issue, sewn in badge. Badge is all sewn in. Yeah, it's a beauty, isn't it? It is a beauty.
That is a beauty. That is a beauty. So I've gone for the 2002-2003 red away shirt. I think this one was a beauty. It's a bit tight. I'm glad it's not. You're not seeing the bottom half of the shirt. But yeah, it's. I really like this one. I was going to go for one of the horrendous ones I've got, but I'm saving them for another pod.
I like that one, to be fair. I think I've got Andy Cole. I think he even went long sleeve because Andy Cole was wearing a lot of long sleeve at the time.
Yeah, so they do have longer short sleeves as well.
Yeah, I do. I like it.
I like to get it around the arms.
Well,
get it around the arms, nice and tight.
With your guns, it don't fit beyond it, does it? So, it's fine.
So, yeah, well, we're going to get onto the subjects of kits. We had quite a big conversation last week, and it sparked a few things in the comments. And again, put your comments down below what you think of the kits that we're wearing today. But we will get onto the latest release. But first, we're going to talk about the new signing, Denive.
Yes.
As luck would have it, the podcast comes out and he signs just a few hours later. But luckily for us, we seem to be quite right in what we were saying, talking about him playing more left midfield, comparing him to Beck, and that's what came out. That's what they were saying about him. He looked really happy to be here. He looked excited. Are you excited?
Yeah. Why not? Let's go with yes. I'd rather have signed Owen Beck, I must admit, but I don't think that was ever realistically on the cards. I think the more I've thought about it, the more it feels right that we did bring somebody in and down that side. I think the qualities that he's brought in, we talked about this last week. I think what we will see this summer, and we've been proven right so far, in the one signing, but I think we will be looking at profile of players. So I think we will be looking at the squad things, the things that are missing. And I think we saw that with your mate Augustus. So we're lacking in pace. We will bring you some pace in. If we're lacking in goals, hopefully we'll bring them in. But in terms of centre halves, I think it's then quite obvious we're missing somebody who's left-footed, albeit Scott Wharton's there with a bit of pace. I think that character will be coming through the door. Midfield, we've talked about box to box. I think this is what we'll be doing. Rather than us having a set style and a set formation and saying, right, if Tronstad's injured, who is Tronstad Mark II? I think we'll be looking at different qualities and different assets for the squad, really.
And there's not much of a financial outlay on this signing. He's got a decent length contract as well. So it does look like we are trying to put the pieces together, which apparently Ismail likes to have at his disposal, fast, sharp players. And he fits this mould. I mean, like we said last week, we've all been all over YouTube, looking at everything we could, all over social media, trying to get as much information as possible. And obviously time will tell of how good he actually is. We've said before, there's always going to be an element of risk in these signings. When you're spending £800,000 on a player, you're not expecting him to come through the door and hit the ground running. But we've had some success in the past, and there's no reason why this one can't be that. It's a position of need, so it's a hole that's been filled, which is great. But what I want to see now is some more pieces coming through the door. I'm not hearing a hell of a lot that's been, linked to us. But we've said before, we keep our cards close to the chest. But I'm happy. I'm not happy about the contract situations with the other players because I feel like the longer they go on, the longer we're not sorting positions out. You know, the fact that we've got 2 contracts for 2 players on offer for Danny Barton and Andy Vyman that haven't been signed. They're 2 positions of need. So we need to know if they're in the building or not. If they're not in the building, we need to go and find someone. So I'm a bit concerned about that. Where are you lying with those 2 players?
I'm no different to last week. I'm still concerned that we're going to end up with light on experience. I think that Andy Vyman's got that little knack of knowing where the ball's going to land, and he will score you some important goals, albeit he's not going to play week in, week out, 90 minutes. Danny Bart, I think, played far more than we expected last year, but he was so vital when he did because he just brought that calmness, that experience. And if them 2 don't come through the door, we have to replace that element missing from the squad. We've got to bring some experience in, and experience you can hang your hat on. And that said, we talked about last week, didn't we, that fans are having a pop at Rovers, and I know they leave themselves open to it a lot. But Danny Bart, we talked about, could it be that he wants 2 years? Then the reports come out later in the week that apparently is what's going on. Well, actually, if he wants X amount that he was on last year for 2 years, maybe we have to make that financial decision. We're not alone in that. I think Manchester United, I mean, they're not the best example to use, but I remember for quite a period of time, there was long talks, weren't there, about Ryan Giggs, and he wanted 2 years and they wouldn't even give him that. It's not an uncommon thing for football clubs. You know, we need our players to be fit and available that we're spending money on. And yes, he was last season, but will he be in 2 years' time? Who knows? So if that's the decision, then that's different. But I just really hope they come and communicate that. If they come out and say, Danny Bart wanted 2 years, we were only prepared to give him a year, we've brought Dave in instead, I'm kind of all right with that. Just talk us through your decision-making at some point. Not yet, because it's not the right time.
Yeah, I mean, it could be controversial to say, but they are both replaceable players. You know, we can go and get another Danny Bart. We can go and get another Andy Vyman. It's just the longer you go on, the less of a pool that you're picking out of, because these players will get picked up elsewhere. And it looks like we are looking at foreign clubs as well. A lot of the signs we're making right now are actually from foreign clubs, which is fine. But there's an even more element of a risk. I just think that if you are going for the Danny Bart and the Andy Vyman, like we've talked about, there's less risk. You know what you're going to get out of them. They know the club from last year. They know kind of what's expected from them from the new manager as well. So it's just that little bit element of lesser risk. But like you say, having a 2-year deal, there is a risk. So I'd like to think that there's a year's deal for Bart with an option for the club. But he's got to think about his future, and he might be thinking, well, I've got to go and see what's out there, because if someone offers me 2 years and it's a solid 2 years, I'm going to take that. You know, you've got to understand that. But there's got to be a time where the club just draws a line under it and just says, look, this is on the table, sign it or go. And it's the same with Dolan. You know, there's no news on Dolan, and if there's no news, it's bad news in this case, because I think we would have heard something by now. So his contract will be up at the end of this month, I believe. It is end of July, isn't it?
Yeah. End of June.
June. Yeah. So obviously, then it's going to get done, and he's going to be gone. The other one to talk about is Lewis Travis. People are talking about they want him to get a deal, because if he doesn't get a deal, he's going to go. Is it, again, being controversial, is it controversial to say that he's actually replaceable?
I think I know what you mean in terms of Bart and Vyman. I think the other thing to consider is it's a different style of football than when we brought them in. We weren't overly excited when they came through the door, and they did us a job. But if we're going to play 10 yards further up the pitch, that makes a massive difference for a centre-half, and that's not necessarily Danny Bart's strengths. Andy Vyman, where was his best position? Probably in the 10. He's not that mobile if we're looking to do a high press. We've got a number 10 who isn't that mobile in Todd Cantwell, so do we need another? I don't know. But Lewis Travis, is irreplaceable? I think we lack a box-to-box midfielder. We lack somebody who's a goal threat. We lack somebody who's good from set pieces. If they were to replace him with that sort of player, then absolutely fair enough. My concern is that we're not going to do that with somebody from the English league who we can go, oh, I know absolutely what he's going to do. He's going to slot in our team. So again, it's increasing the risk. And I think you're also increasing the risk by not having a core of British players who know how to do Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday. They know the league. They know what it takes. I think we saw that under Thomason in terms of a manager who didn't necessarily know how to manage Saturday, Wednesdays, 3 games, 4 games, 5 games in 2 weeks. It's a new experience. And what I'm a little bit bored of is managers coming through the door, players coming through the door. It took me a while to adjust. But I think that's the reality of Blackburn Rovers. I think that's where we are. I would like to think that we've signed Denive for, is it reported 800, 900,000? That's not a small fee when you consider we said, yeah, we need some pace out wide, but I presume he's going to be one of the starting players, you would imagine. That's what they've got in mind if they're paying that kind of figure. But if we're talking that and we're talking about the risks of it and how it could be 6 months before he beds in, Travis at 27, if we're already ruling out when we're having this conversation, us going and signing an established British-based centre midfielder in the prime. Well, why? Well, because of fee. So the fees that talked about for Travis of 2 million, I think are absolutely nonsensical now. Other than if he's not going to sign the deal, he's worth nothing in this next summer. So I think we reap what we sow, and we've got to learn from it in terms of contracts earlier.
Which is quite scary because we thought we had learned from it not long ago, and we seem to be in this situation again. The only one I'm really concerned about is Callum Britton, if I'm being honest. I think he's shown enough improvements and development over the last couple of years to show that he's turning into a very neat little player. That is important going forward. He's important at the back. He's really important for us getting goals. He's now popping up with the odd goal as well, which is crazy to say. He's the one that I think has some serious value in him as a player and from a financial aspect. So I really want to see him get tied down. And I think it would show real intent if we could get him tied down. Travis is a real tough one. It's a real tough one. I'll flip-flop around with him because 1 minute I'm thinking, well, he's club captain. He's had a great year. He really dragged us through some games. And there was times, like we said last week, where we was looking at games and was thinking, oh, it's a real Rovers thing to lose, but we weren't. And that we was putting that down to the mentality of the team. And that came from the Danny Barts, the Vimans and the Travises being in this squad. But it's 1 year. If I look at his previous, body of work with Rovers, he's been a very mediocre player, if I'm being brutally honest. Whether he's a leader or not, as a player, he's been quite mediocre at times. He doesn't offer a hell of a lot going forward. At the back, yes, he puts his body on the line and he does the dark arts really well. But actually, I think he's quite a replaceable player on the pitch. It's off the pitch that I'm going to be concerned about. And if you've let these leaders go, and it does look like none of them are going to sign deals, if I'm being pessimistic, we've lost a lot of leaders in the dressing room. So then you've got to think, who's actually going to step up now? Because you mentioned even Dolan being a leader at times in that second half of the season. And you were absolutely right. He was dragging people around that pitch. And as much as I moaned about his ability, his decision-making, that second half of the season, he really stepped up. Yeah. So then you start looking around thinking, okay, well, Dolan, Bart, Vyman, Travis, these players that were proper leaders, even Forshaw, apparently he was good around the dressing room. Yeah, we need people to come in now that are gonna help. McFadden, well, I mean, we've forgotten about him. We said about him being a coach on the pitch. So if I look around the squad now, there's not many people I'm looking at and I'm thinking, do you know what? I think you're going to be a leader.
Completely agree. And we're losing an awful lot of championship minutes if that's the case, aren't we? I think with Callum Britton, I agree, it's slightly different. I think if we take the two separately, Callum Britton is a bit younger. He is somebody who I have not seen many right-backs in the Championship last year that I would have swapped him with. I think he fits what we would be looking for in terms of a profile of right-back for Ismail perfectly. I think there were whispers that Leeds were very, very interested and sort of sniffing around his agent and what they're like. Then we've obviously seen the Szmodics interview, which I'm sure we'll come on to, but they talk wages, they talk numbers. But I think that was if Leeds didn't get promoted, and then that would be a sort of a you're in, you're out with Bogle. So that's one's gone. But if Leeds are interested, who were probably the best team in the Championship by a distance, you bet your bottom dollar others are. Now, we know we're not the biggest wage payers. Is that going to impact his decision? We know his missus is, she plays for Leeds at netball, doesn't she? So that's in the north. So he's going to, you would imagine, want to stay there because she's got a career as well. This is not somebody who is able to just drag his wife all around the country. But football's a short career and he's doing very, very well. He's got a year left. I think if you look at Travis, I think there's an element with Lewis Travis where he will also, as much as a football decision, he'll be making a decision now around ambition in terms of, do I want to get into the Premier League at some point? Who's going to give me the best opportunity to do that? But then also at 27, I think I'm right in saying, he's 28, so therefore by the time his contract runs out, this is his biggest contract you would imagine of his career. Mm-hmm. This is a real big deal. If he goes and gets 3 years, if he goes and gets 3 years, he's obviously 30. My maths is on point today. But the next deal's not going to be massive, is it? It's going to be dropping off. He's then going to be looking at potentially clubs saying, well, we'll only give you a year, we'll give you 2 years. So this is a massive contract for Lewis Travis. I can't imagine he's earned, I mean, he'll have earned enough money, don't get me wrong, but he's not going to be, we're not Ronaldo levels here, we're not Premier League levels. I believe he's our highest paid player, but it still will be a massive difference to what other people are on in the Championship. I mean, there's reports, if you look at when we talked about Tyjon last week, and there's reports that when he's in the England under-17 dressing room, he's sat alongside people in Tottenham's under-18s who are on 30 grand a week. But Lewis Travis probably isn't on 30 grand a week. So that just shows you the level that we're talking about. And if he's got a chance to earn a significant amount of money, football's only a short career, I can't blame him. Equally, if he's got a shot at a team that's more, he feels are more suited or better equipped at getting into the Premier League, because I don't think he'll get a Premier League move yet, I can't blame them. I really can't, because we are showing year in, year out that we are rebuilding. We're starting again. Maybe 1 year it will click. We've been close, but we've never really felt like we were actually last year in with a massive shout. We kept thinking, is a drop-off going to come? We're punching, we're overachieving, all these kind of things. If a team comes and says to him, here's an opportunity to increase your money and increase your chance of getting in the Premier League, he'd be an idiot if he didn't explore that with a year left. He really would.
Well, he's only been linked to clubs in the Championship right now that are not pushing. Whether we're a club that's going to be pushing next year or not, time will tell. We'll see what the squad pans out. We didn't expect last year we was going to be pushing, and we did. But we'll put to one side what level we're going to be at. But he's been linked to Wrexham quite heavily, and now Birmingham City. Now, as you can tell by my dull Brummie accent, I live very local to Birmingham. I lost my northern accent a long time ago and adopted this one. I absolutely hate it. But anyway, I've been talking to a lot of Birmingham City fans, and they've been asking me about him. And I don't know what to tell them, because I'll be honest, if I was a Blue Nose, I'd be a little bit disappointed that I was being linked to Lewis Travis, because considering how much money apparently they've got to spend and what they're going to be pushing for, if I was signing Lewis Travis for a good couple of million, I don't know. I think I'd be a little bit disappointed. Is that me being a bit harsh on Lewis Travis?
I think so. I think if we went and signed somebody who's finished 7th in the Championship last year, they've been club captain for a number of years. He was at Ipswich the year before, albeit he didn't play very often. They got promoted. He'll have a significant number of Championship games. And it's only a couple of million, isn't it, to them? This is the difference of the levels. I mean, one thing that I've had a discussion with a number of people about is people saying, how can Wrexham spend this money? It's FFP, it's P&S. I might not be bang on here, but I'm pretty sure that the figures I saw the other day, that when Wrexham were in League Two and we were in the Championship, obviously, at that period of time, their income was the same as ours. Now, what you've got to remember is, their gates are probably similar to ours, but they have a documentary that is boomed around the world. They are massive in America, massive in Canada. There's the merchandise element, but that documentary alone is getting so many views that when we are going for a sponsor and we're getting Watson Ramsbottom, with all due respect to them, because they're looking at how many times are we on the highlight show, how many times are we on Sky, Wrexham are talking about being in the homes of millions and millions of people on an hour's basis at a time. So their sponsorship levels will be significantly higher than ours. They will be
Blues as well, isn't it? Blues are going the same way.
They will be bringing in, I would hazard a guess, at 4 times our income this year. And the difference is we don't spend all the money we could with P&S. We know that. That's a fact. They will spend all the money they can. And they'll probably also find other routes to bring in even more. So, I think a couple of million at that point, when they might have a transfer budget of, speculating here, but 30 million, and you're bringing in an experienced Championship player that plays week in, week out, very rarely injured, captained his team. I think that's the equivalent of us bringing Forshaw in, isn't it? If not better.
Oh yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I mean, I just think that for us right now, we need to just draw a line under a lot of these things very quick.
Yeah.
And if Bart and Vyman aren't looking to sign their deals, just put a time limit on it. If Travis isn't looking to sign his deal and there's something on offer for 2 million, just let it happen and let's just reset and get ourselves sorted. If Dolan isn't looking to sign, just say, look, let's be honest, are you going to sign, yes or no? And if he says no, just say, right, contract's off the table, we're just going to move on from you. Thank you for everything you've done.
I know what you're saying. I think you're right in some elements about the others. The difference with Dolan is if we take the contract offer on the table, we take our compensation off the table.
Maybe just say, this is the deal, sign it.
I think we're pretty sure that Dolan's not going to be here. I think the club know that.
Yeah.
They probably, if we're being honest, made him an offer that what they could do is just make him any offer after that, and then there's one on the table, and then they're still eligible for compensation, but they know he's not going to accept it. So I think they're planning without Tyrese Dolan. Yeah,
they're just playing the game.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But I just think that now, we need to start moving on. If this rebuild is happening, that we've made one signing that's plugged a hole that we said we needed to start looking at. There's other positions. It's quite interesting to see that in the kit release, it was Toth that was the one modelling the goalkeeper kit and not Pears. So I'd like to read into little things like that. So I think Pears is probably going to be on his way. So there's loads of little holes in the squad that needs to get filled. And the people that we're waiting on, they're quite big holes as well. So I just think we just need to draw a line under it as quick, smart, because apparently the budgets have all been set, I heard. I mean, whether they have or they haven't, but apparently the budgets have been set. So we should know by now what we've got to play with. And players like Danny Bart and Vyman should know what's on offer for them that's realistic.
Yeah, I think the slight caveat to that is a lot of other teams are still on holiday. I think a lot of managers are on holiday. They're just about arriving. I think we will expect, what we're on now, we're on as we record this, Monday the 16th. This week, most people are back in buildings. So the Rovers, what's left of them, senior officials are back in the building. The same will be happening at Derby. I think I'd be very surprised if we are at a podcast next week and we don't know if Danny Bart or Vandy Vyman are with us or somebody else. Yeah.
I hope we do, and I hope we've got a couple of people coming through the door because I want to see some positivity because the fan base right now is getting increasingly frustrated. We're seeing players linked away, contracts not being signed, and you could see how excited we were signing this Denive. No one's heard of him, but we're all getting excited because it's a fast-pacey winger, and everyone loves a fast-pacey winger, and we're easily pleased as fans when it comes to signings. We all get excited. We're going to have some risky ones, we know, but I just want to see a plan. I want to see a certain, like you say, profile of player that's coming through the door, so we can look at it and see exactly what's happening, and that it's not just a mishmash. Whereas previously we've looked at, and it's like you've looked at some signings and they've looked like panic signings. You know, your Forshaws, your Emmanuel Dennis's, and Woodrow. You know, they were obviously panic signings. I just want to see some signs come through the door where we look at them and go, that's a planned signing. I like that. It looks like some research has been done. It's not just a case of opening up Transfer Market and Football Manager and just, you know, trying to get some names and throwing some emails out. So I just want to see some plans, and hopefully we're going to see some positive. I mean, are we actually linked to anyone at the moment that you've seen? Because I mean, I'm scrolling social media, I'm seeing stuff, and I see names, and people are saying there's no substance behind this.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of lads from Belgium that we're sniffing around. I think we will be in the Belgian market again. It's one we've used. I think a lot of our signings this summer will come from Belgium, lower leagues in France, Germany. Yeah, that's where the bulk of them will come from, because they qualify for the ESC places as well, don't they? So we don't need them, for the ESC places. So yeah, I think I expect. I'll be honest, I expect quite a bit of movement. I think it will happen the next 2 weeks. We will see the squad taking shape. I think there'll still be work to do, because I find it absolutely daft to say that they'll have everybody through the door by the time they need them, which Ismail said he wanted 90% through the door for pre-season when he was talking about 6 players. I'm pretty certain that would have included Vyman and Bart. So, you know, he wants a decent number through the door. He needs to be getting 6 or 7 through the door now, doesn't he? So they need to start shifting their backsides. But I think they will. Everyone's back now. Thing is, it literally just stops. They've done most of the research. They'll have 1 or 2 people ticking over. But the world stops. You know, it's all right. People saying, well, Rovers, he should still be there. You can't ring up Derby if nobody's picking the phone up at the other end. You can't ring up anybody. So they'll be talking to agents in the meantime. They'll be talking to players. So then it's ready to go when they know. But it takes 2, 3 to do a deal, doesn't it? The club's got to be happy at both ends, and the player's got to be. And whilst we're talking about Lewis Travis not signing a new deal with us yet because he's exploring what's out there, you bet your bottom dollar all the players across the world that we're talking to are doing the same. So, yeah.
Well, it's the nature of the business.
It is.
And we're here to obviously recklessly speculate as much as we can to create content. And me and you do love to chat and speculate. But one thing that is for certain is we have got a new club, re-signed the club sponsor, Watson Ramsbottom. Do we know much about the deal, or is it just another year?
2 years deal. 2 years, which is good, because hopefully then when they go to manufacture and design the kit, they'll include the sponsor in it. Because I felt a little sorry for Macron this time. I think they put a lot of effort into it, and a lot of people behind the scenes have. And then they've used the old bright red stick-on sponsor to use, and it looked like it was exactly what it was, which was a late deal. But yeah, I think Watson Ramsbottom are a local firm, which gets. The thing is, if we went and got a foreign firm, we'd get criticism. They've gone and got a local firm, they get criticised. You know, he's a Rovers fan that runs it, the Rovers family. I know quite a few people who work for Watson Ramsbottom, the majority are Rovers fans. You know, it's a local firm that we can use. We had a little joke beforehand, didn't we? That, you know, yes, Rovers fans, they do wills as well. And if Rovers keep going the way they are, we might all need one. But
well, it is nice, isn't it, to actually have a firm that we can use. I mean, obviously, I don't live local anymore, but I was saying to you, I watch a lot of American sports, and you see them after, and they're talking about their sponsors and stuff. And they say the reason they do it is because if you keep talking about sponsors and putting it out there, and the fans use them, it attracts bigger sponsors later. So they put it down to the fans, like, fans, please use these sponsors, because if you use them, they make money, they come back, they offer us more money, and that's how it works. But the one thing I really liked is just getting rid of that vaping firm. I'm so against vaping, like, I just really am. and I hated having that. And I know that was a local firm, but it's just nice to have something on the front that isn't vaping.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things was, you'll have been the same as me, Matt. When you're a kid, you want the actual shirt that the players have got, which bugs me when you start getting player issue and all that sort of rubbish. But I remember as a kid, you walked around with McEwens Lager on because you were allowed. Quite rightly, you're not allowed to walk around in McEwens Lager, or any lager for that sake. You're not allowed to walk around in a cigarette company. You shouldn't really be allowed to walk around in a vaping company. And actually, the under-18s weren't. So then you've got kids with a football shirt that's all of a sudden blank, and it's not the same as the guy on the pitch. And I don't like it. I'd rather we had a sponsor that, if you can't have the sponsor on a kid's shirt, there's something wrong with that sponsor, isn't there? So, I like the fact we've got a local firm. I like the fact that we have got a sponsor that, kids' shirts can have on and everybody can. I don't know the ins and outs of the commercial deal. I'm pretty sure that Watson Ramsbottom aren't getting, aren't doing it for free. But I also think that he's a Rovers fan. He came out and actually, I think he said that, I've said to the club, listen, this is the offer we can do. If you can find something better elsewhere, I'll not be upset by that. I'd expect you to do that. Go and do it. So the club must be happy with it as well. You see people giving them stick and saying, "Oh, it's a lazy deal. It's this, it's that." Listen, I'd rather it than a big betting company. I would.
I mean, we've had some sponsors in our time, and not many of them have been huge worldwide companies. We just don't attract that market, so you just got to take what's on offer. And going back to the vaping company, I appreciate the fact that business stepped up and gave the club money, and it helped the fans. It helps everyone. I get that. It was just principle on me for that one. But I was fine with McEwens Lager, but just not vaping. But that's just me. But talking about the new kit, so obviously this is very YouTube heavy at the moment, but we'll try and talk about it for the listener. So we released the new kit. It was kind of released by, leaked. There's people saying it was leaked by the club and all of this, but no, it just came out. And they've officially released it today, knowing that we're recording tonight, I think. So we could talk about it officially. It was obviously all about us. So what's your first vibe looking at this one?
Right. So, I mean, I've been asked by a few people, obviously, about when we're on the fans forum, do you get to pick the kits? Do you have a say in it? Yes, we do have a say in some respects. So we talked, I spent a long time with the club about 18 months ago, coming up with a survey, finding things that the club could ask supporters to identify, and that then went to the whole fan base. What things would you accept? What would you not? I think it's the right blue. I think that's Rovers blue for me. I like the fact that it is very much heavy on the halves. I do like that. I hate the fact that it's not reversed on the back. And I do think the sponsor, I think it looks really good on the image you've put up there, Mike, but I actually think the sponsor would, when you look at the minor details, so you've got the Macron logo, you've got the surround of the badge, you've got the 150 commemorative logo on the back, all in the same colour, it then feels a bit naff to then have a red sponsor. And I think, the simplistic version of that is probably because that's what they used last year, and it's been quite a late deal. I think Watson Ramsbottom, we've had them in all white, haven't we, on one of the kits? So they're not averse to us changing their logo colour, if you like. So I don't particularly like that, and I don't like the fact it's not reversed on the back. What I would say, just to clarify for people, is there will be a 150th anniversary kit. I think Rovers have actually pretty much said that. This is not it. I know people have said they wanted something anniversary based. That will be coming out around the anniversary, which is obviously in November, I would imagine. But this kit, I think I like it. It's growing on me, but it's not one that I feel I have to go and buy today, which I considered doing. The launch was obviously out. I did think about it, but when I think there's going to be 4 shirts, I like the training kit this year, so that's an option for me that I never normally do. And now they've put the price up to $59.99. I'll be honest, I am not spending £60 when I probably have to buy one for my little girl as well 4 times. That's not happening.
No, I completely agree. I mean, we could get into the depths of how much shirts cost nowadays. It is ridiculous, but just looking at this one, to me, it looks like it's a bit of a throwback to the 1960. In fact, I think someone put in our poll. So I'll get to the poll in a sec. But yeah, John Lee, Brisbane Rover, put on about it being the 1960 final throwback, which is nice, but we lost that final. So I don't really want to throw back to a final that we lost. But it does have that vibe to it. I like it. I'm probably not going to go and get it because I will be waiting for that anniversary one, and whether that anniversary one's limited edition that goes to season ticket holders. I will try and get my hands on one if I can, no matter what it is. I mean, they're talking about it having the Maltese cross and all of this, so it sounds like it's going to be a nice little shirt. But for this one, I like the details. I don't like the Macron badge being black. I think if you was going to have the sponsor as red, you could have a little bit of red just there, just to accent it or something like that. Listen to me using the term accent it, like I know what I'm talking about. But I like looking on the picture I've just put on now, you've got the indentation press going down that looks like thorns for the rose, which is quite nice, but I don't like the black on there. The collar, I do quite like it. I think it's quite nice. I don't like the big panel at the back with the 150 on. I think that panel needs to be a little bit smaller. It looks like they've made it so big that either the panel's not been made to fit the print or the print's not been made to fit the panel.
Well, do you know what? I think looking at all the previous Macron ones, they all have that panel and the tiny bit underneath at the bottom. Sometimes they have different colours to make a thing of it. Right. But they all seem to have that panel. Don't know what it is, but yeah.
But I love these little details. The 150 around all the hem of the bottom of the shirt. See, I'm using terms like hem, mate.
I'll tell you what
happened to me.
We're going to turn into sewing bee in a minute.
I tell you. But yeah, I think it's all right. It's not one I'm going to run out and buy. I mean, there's been a lot of people taking the mick on social media saying Blackburn have released a shirt and it looks like all the others. Well, guess what? Newsflash. We play in blue and white halves and that rarely changes. The only time it changes is when we rotate which half the blue's on. It's not going to be dramatic difference every single time. I tend to look at the away shirts more because I like to. There's normally a bit of a dramatic difference year on year. But when it comes to this one, I quite like it. But I preferred last year's. Last year's I thought was a really nice one. I had to go and get that one, but this one is a no from me. But it's not that I don't like it. It's just same as you. I'm probably going to be spending my money on the anniversary shirt if I can get hold of it, and it's going to be interesting to see when that away shirt comes out and what they're going to do with the away one.
I'll be honest, the more I look at it, I think in that photo there that you've put up there, Mike, you should be on commission. That's a good photo. The more you're flicking through, Mike, you're selling it to me. And your words are saying, I don't think it's that good. I'm not rushing out buying it. Do you know what? The more
this is from the Macron. I advise people to go to the Macron post because you can actually see it in a little bit more detail. Because you sent me a picture yesterday and the collar wasn't even matched in properly.
I haven't leaked anything, Your Honour. All right? I haven't seen anything.
It was already on social media.
It was already out there.
But no, it looked really poor in the pictures. But actually, this is on the Macron website, on the Macron X, and it looks really good. And we're getting really positive reviews. I put the poll out yesterday, and 63% of people say yes, they do actually like it. But I agree with you. I think they've got the blue right. I think generally the design is right. You're always going to struggle with sponsors. A sponsor could make or break a shirt. We had it with the Totally Wicked. We had it with the Bet 10, which looked like a toilet. There's loads of. A sponsor can make a shirt. I obviously hate the fact we've got Venky's on the side. I hate sponsors on the.
Well,
there's nothing to do with Venky's.
Well,
Yeah,
that won't be on the. It's been optional every year. It's been on there because I think they know that realistically it will make or break some people's decision to buy the shirt. So that will only be on if you wanted them, surely.
But I don't like the sponsors on the bottom of the back of the shirt. I don't like sponsors
No, I agree.
on the. I mean, I get it. It's money makers, 100%, and that's the way of the world. But for me, I just like a nice shirt sponsor. But this one, I think if it didn't have the sponsors on, I think a lot of people would say it was a really nice shirt.
Yeah. Do you know, I half hoped, actually, that the sponsor might be, when sometimes they do a tiny one or something like that. I think they'll probably do that. It wouldn't surprise me if the anniversary kit it's going to be either the first ever shirt, which is all white, isn't it? Or the next one, which is navy, you would imagine. That's got the Maltese cross. It wouldn't surprise me if Watson Ramsbottom either said, don't put ours on, or sometimes you see it on the white side, don't you, for example, and it's all in white. I hope so anyway. I hope you don't have a really good replica version of an old kit with a big brand new sponsor on. That would be daft, but fingers crossed.
Well, going back to it, what did you think of the Kappa anniversary shirt that we had? Because that was like a proper collar, wasn't it?
Yeah, in fact, mate, I've got it somewhere. I will dig it out for next week. I don't know if it fits me.
We are well, mate. I've painted this one on today, so if you can get it on, get it on. Yeah, seriously, we're going to try our best to go through our old shirts and wear them where we can. But no, I think this one was quite a nice shirt to release. It's not blowing my skirt up, but there's a lot of things that would have to happen with a shirt for me to really run out and get it. Last year's was a special one. I thought they got it so right last year. It's that difficult third album, as they say. We've had some really good. I think Macron have hit it out the park every single time, and this one, they've hit. Have they hit a home run? I don't know, but you've got points on the board with it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It has peed me off more than it probably should because it's just a football shirt. The halves are not reversed. It really does bug me.
No,
probably shouldn't, but it really does. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that 63% of the people that listen to us and have been on to the poll say they like it. Put your comments down below whether you like it. What are your thoughts? But one thing that we teased last week was a competition that Mark and I want to run. It's a little bit of a thank you to the fans that have supported us. The fans that have the listeners, I should say, that have fans, listeners. We'll say listeners. We're not sure you're fans because there are people that don't actually like us, which is fine. Keep listening. But anyway, it's a bit of a thank you. We're going to run a competition now. This is very YouTube heavy again, so just bear with us for a minute and we'll explain the competition after. But let me play the release video.
Rover for many a year, and I've spent all my money on best seats right here. There's no point in saving for a rainy day, 'cause I'll be a wild rover till my dying day. And it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more, 'cause I'll stay a wild rover forever.
So, thank you to the people that were listening there. I think it was a bit louder than I expected, but never mind, it's blowing your ears off. So yes, the competition's going to all about sharing the podcast, trying to get us. We're trying to expand as much as we can, so we can start getting some players on and create better content for you guys. So we are going to be putting it out onto all the socials after the podcast on how to enter. The people watching on YouTube obviously saw, but it's all about sharing, tagging people, trying to get subscribing as well, going down below and subscribing. If we can get as many people as we can doing that, it really helps us grow. Mark's talked about it in the past. And if you do all of that, you'll enter the prize draw. And at the end of July on the podcast, we will announce the winner. And we'll make sure that we get a shirt in their size, bought and delivered to their home. So, Mark, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up there. Yeah. So, I mean, you can enter as many times as you want. One of the conditions you've got to be subscribing on YouTube. But if you enter on Instagram and you follow us on there, tag 3 people in, and you're following us on YouTube, that's one entry. If you do it on X, you do it on Blue Sky, Facebook. We're all on all the modern cons. But yes, we I think it should be a nice thing. But yeah, if it's miles and miles and miles away, then we'll have to suck it up and pay the air miles. And if it's round the corner from me, you might get a home delivery. We'll just see.
And if it's round the corner from me, I'll be absolutely shocked. But yeah, I'll deliver it as well. Although, side note, in my daughter's class, one of their dads came up to me and said, "Oh, you do football coaching, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." It was like, "My son would like to come down and join your development centre." I was like, "Brilliant." And he came down, and I'm there in like a proper coach's jacket. So, and he said, "I like to kind of say to them what team they support." And he said Blackburn. And I thought he was taking the mick. And I said, "Why have you said Blackburn?" He said, "Because they're my favourite team." He said, "Them and Arsenal." I'm like, okay.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. But I said, "Well, why have you said Blackburn?" He said, "Well, why are you asking?" And I had my Blackburn jacket with me and put it on. In his face, he was like, and he was just delighted. And he's in my daughter's class. So I said, like, if you have a boyfriend, he's allowed. He's one of the ones that are allowed. Yeah, I mean, you're only 8 years old, but that's allowed. So yeah, there's another Blackburn fan close to me. It's absolutely crazy.
This is tremendous.
Tremendous news. We've expanded down my way. But yeah, so the competition, we're going to get it on socials over the next few days. We'd love to see it being shared around. We will make we see when people have done it, so we can actually make notes, and then I think towards the end of July, we'll then make sure that we've got a spot on the podcast to do an official prize draw.
It's exciting. I think it'll be an electronic one. I don't think I'll be giving it Rod Stewart or. But Mike, can we just get to important matters on your coaching thing? Do you have your initials?
I don't. No. They don't do that anymore. I don't see anyone doing it.
I think you've let yourself down there, Mike. I'll be honest. A bit disappointed.
I know. There's a lot of things that have changed nowadays that are classed as not cool. Personalising your stuff is not classed as being cool anymore.
What nonsense.
If you've got personalised boots, that's a big no-no. And I've actually been told off because I wear white boots to coaching because I just hate black boots. I don't know why. I've always hated them.
Okay.
And I've always worn white boots. And coaching in them, I get slated by other coaches for doing that.
To be fair, I can see that one. White boots when you're coaching. You've got to be a good player to wear white boots. Obviously, I could wear them, but I don't know. It sounds like woke nonsense to me, this.
Oh, it's this woke nonsense, mate. Absolute woke nonsense. So let's move on then. So we've spoken about signings coming in. We've spoken about potential contracts being signed. We've spoken about sponsors and kits. Let's talk about a player that has not played for us for the last year. He left us, and he's done an interview, and that's Sammie Szmodics. What have you seen to do with this interview then?
I've watched the full interview. I saw him put something out. Obviously, we've seen the headlines that the podcast has done to try and get clickbait, essentially, I suppose. Obviously, he's friends, isn't he, with the guy Still Ryan, who started out as an Everton fan. I think he started out trying to get some happy content out there, and they're friends now. They've done a couple of things together. I thought it was a good, very, very honest interview. I think I appreciated the fact that he was honest across all things: football, life, family. I think I could completely see what he was saying, but I was a little bit split with it. I understand why he wanted to leave the club, absolutely. I think that was his, a bit like we were talking about Travis, except that Travis hasn't had a world-beating season and there's a Premier League offer there. I think what he didn't explain as well as he probably could was the headline coming out of it was he refused to play for Rovers in games, which I don't think was anything new. But the way he phrased it, he didn't really clarify. When he did that, it was in pre-season, and he said, I don't want to play in the friendly games because I've got a chance of this move. I don't want to get injured and jeopardise it. He also said to Eustace, my mind's all over the place because bids were coming in. They're talking to agents. Rovers have said, here's the fee before you go. It's moving. 1 minute it's on, 1 minute it looks likely, and then it doesn't. So he said, do not take me out of the group. I'll train on my own. You crack on because you're preparing for this weekend's game and you're talking about the season, and I probably won't be here. So do you put, all the kind of dynamics that people don't really think of? Do you put me in the middle of the shape in the 10 role? Then I might be here, then I might not. Am I going to be thinking, don't go in for that tackle, I don't want to get injured? Are people going to be thinking, I don't want to injure? There's loads of dynamics to get into it. So it's not as horrific as it sounds. And then obviously when the Derby game came, he was able to play. I think the one thing that bugged me was, and he said it bugged himself. He sat there when we were playing Derby in the first game of the season on the bench thinking, I've done this to myself. The deal didn't look like it was going to happen. He's like, I put myself on the bench here. But I cut him some slack in the sense of when the season started, albeit he wasn't fully match fit, he was available to play. He never turned around and said, I'm not playing in that game. He played against Stockport, then obviously he went on his way. He was open and honest in an interview when the season finished with Sam Allardyce, no tippy-tappy football. See, other podcasts are available. And he said that if a Premier League move comes around, I want to take that opportunity. We talked about it on here. He won't have earned massive money in his career. He's been in the lower leagues. Rovers is the biggest club he's been at. He's got a chance to probably double his wages, if not more. He's got a chance to play in the Premier League, which, as we've seen with him this year, he got injured and he's missed 4 months of the season. That could happen at any point, and that chance is gone, and you'll forever look back and think, well, yeah, I could have played in the Premier League, but I got injured or whatever. I don't blame him one iota for that, and I think I just think he didn't articulate it as well as he could have done, actually. But yeah, on the base of the headlines, refusing to play for the club that's paying you wages plucks you out of a lower league. Not a good look. Not good at all. And that's not something I can support. When you actually delve into it and you see that it was pre-season, he wasn't refusing to play. There was a discussion with the manager around, listen, I don't want to get injured here. I don't want that to deny me. And Eustace has been around football. He completely appreciates that. And Eustace is a good man. He's somebody who's a good footballing man. If he thought Szmodics was taking the Waz, they'd have had that honest conversation, and he just said it. What are you doing? But yeah, what were your thoughts, Mike?
To be honest, very similar to yours. My footballing head says, I get it. He's got a career, he's got to sort himself out, and sometimes you need to push a move, and the club are not necessarily the easiest to talk to sometimes. And if you look at the career he'd had before, he would have never expected to get in the Premier League or have this opportunity. So to have this opportunity at the age he's at, and to do what he did for the club to keep us up, his reward should have been that the club just said, you know what, thank you. Let's just make sure we get as much money as we can for you and we won't stand in your way. As a fan, I'm disappointed because I want my players to be professional. I want them to play for the club, all of this, that, and the other, all the good stuff. But then as a parent, as a man, I get where he was at it. You've got to earn your money before it all ends. And, the world's an expensive world to live in nowadays. You get used to a certain lifestyle. You need to make sure you're funding for it. If he's not going into coaching after, his money stops. So then he's got to have the rest of his life just off what he's earned. So I was all over the place with it. I think I'm disappointed because the child fan in me wants all players to say, "Oh, I love playing for Blackburn Rovers, and I'd sign a deal to stay with them forever, and I'd play for free." But that's just not realistic, and it's not the way the world works. I think there was elements of it where I was a little bit disappointed, like you said, but I do get it. I do get it, and I still look back and I think we could have handled it a little bit better as a club. And now I've heard his side, I think he could have handled it a little bit better himself. But it's all worked out for the best for him. And we finished 7th in the league. And whilst if we had him, could we have been pushing higher up? You don't know. He could have been a one-season wonder. I was one of these that thought he was a one-season wonder and he wouldn't do it anywhere else. And he did okay, to be fair to him. You got to say that to make that step up and to get the goals that he did and play that he did, other than the injuries, I think it was a relatively successful season for him, taking injuries aside.
Yeah, and I think you look at that season that he had with us, not only did he score the goals he scored, but if you remember, he had that knee injury that actually the only way to get over the knee bursary is rest. Not particularly a dangerous one, but it's still not great. He could have at that point gone, do you know what, I've scored enough goals here, I can get out of this club in the summer. I'm just going to have a few weeks off now and look after number one. He didn't at that point. He was open and honest in public. He was open and honest with the club. I do think there's absolutely that he could have handled elements of it better. But then there is a big element of me that actually applauds his honesty now. But even at the time, we're talking here about Bart, Vyman, we're in the dark. Maybe the club know that. But he made us all aware. Listen, if I end up at Blackburn Rovers when the transfer window shuts, I will go. I'm at a massive club. I'm really happy. But actually, if there's an opportunity to go to the Premier League, and he said that was the only league I was considering. I wasn't going to the team pushing in the Championship. The Premier League was what I wanted to move for. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love him to turn around and go, do you know what, I want to stay at Blackburn. But actually at the time, all right, forget how we reinvested it or didn't. If that's me looking at it as a club and going, can we become a better club in theory if we reinvest that well? Yes, we could. That's the way of the world. That's the way that world we are in. It's the world that most teams are in, even in the Premier League. It's not his fault. We just chose not to reinvest that. But yeah, I think it doesn't really change for me the impact he had that season. And
it'd be a cult hero.
If he'd have refused to play against Derby, different ball game. It's a competitive game. I'd have had a different thing then. And there's no way he when he was saying I don't want to play in pre-season that he thought it would string out all pre-season. He even said I wanted to be fit and raring to go for the move, really. But the club were playing hardball over 500,000. We know the club do that. The club are not a club that sell people easily. So I don't blame the club for that either. I think in the end it worked. We turned around and said, well, we'll play him then. That's fine. Played him at Stockport. He carried on scoring. Did he get 2 at Stockport, 1 against Derby? Gave it, so it's a nudge it needed. Right, okay, we'll pay the money. In the end, they caved in. So great, fine. We all moved on.
And we did, yeah. I mean, I look back now at that, and I do think that we did well to get the money we did based on his previous body of work. Talking about the Travis situation, Szmodics was the same. We said that he needed to offer more, and he had that fantastic season. And similar to other players that we've had, sometimes you do just need to cash in, and we did. I think generally it worked out well for us but we just needed to reinvest that money.
Yeah, we
and
did.
It's going to be interesting to see what we do now.
It'll also be very interesting to see how he does in the Championship this year, won't it?
Do you think he'd be welcome back?
Yeah.
To Ewood?
I think it'll be almost 99% of supporters will be cheering him. I mean, what I didn't get my head around, still can't to this day, was when he scored against Man City. So that was early on, obviously, last season. Was it their first game of the season? Some people in the Blackburn end were singing Sammie Szmodics. I was like, what the hell is going on? If he'd scored against Burnley to knock them into down by Christmas, then it's a different ball game, potentially, but not for me. You sing about players at your own club, players that have left, that have retired, but I couldn't get on board with that.
Yeah. Well, it's history now. It was an interesting interview. We're all about the future, and hopefully the future's bright. We've got new signings hopefully coming through the door, contracts being signed. And like you said, next week, we will hopefully have some news. We're probably going to put the recording out a day or two later because I can't record on the Monday. Selfishly, I apologise, Mark.
Bang out of order.
I know. I'll take a week's fine for that. But it does mean that we do get that extra day, hopefully, to get some more positive news to talk about.
Yes. Like I say, I think I'd be surprised if we don't know the future of Bart and Vyman or certainly one of them. And I think by little rubbish prediction, but I think by this time, 2 weeks, there'll be movement in and out. Yeah.
I hope so. And is there, before we finish the podcast, there's no release dates on the away kits or anything yet, is there?
No, but I think if people look back at when the previous ones have been released, it will be similar again. They've been pretty good recently. They've stuck to the timelines. I know they got in with Macron really early in terms of design. You do it like 18 months in advance. You finalise it 12 months in advance. They've met all them deadlines. When the training kit comes over, it comes via plane with the first batch of kits. So it will be here. The next follows on a big shipping container. So I would imagine we'll have all the stock we need of all three kits very, very soon. The anniversary one might arrive at that point, but it won't be unveiled. But yeah, I think they tend to do the away 2 weeks later, then the third similar. So yeah, and we're ahead of schedule from last year. So yeah,
hopefully it'll be a good one. But everyone put their comments down below. What do you think about the kit? What do you think the anniversary kit's going to look like? What would you like the away kit to look like? All the good stuff. Obviously, make sure you look out for the competition that we're putting out. But Mark, thank you very much for joining me this week.
Always a pleasure, Mike. Always a pleasure.
And like we said, remember, share, do all the good stuff, and have a great week, and we'll see you next time.